and welcome back to Neuropa City Zoo. I hope you all had a fantastic week. In today's episode, our main goal is going to be to add a gondola sky ride kind of thing to our zoo to help people get from the starting area to the back part of our zoo a little bit easier, hopefully spread out the people a little bit more and kind of add that extra fun little twist of having a ride in the zoo. I actually have not played with the rides very often, so I'm hoping this isn't too difficult to figure out, but we will definitely see how it goes. So the general plan before we hop into the speed build of actually building it is to have essentially this entryway path to come along here and allow guests a second way to go. So essentially they'll be able to go here, go up here, there'll be the ride here, and then this whole area can be, I'm thinking it will be a habitat later on, just to kind of fill it out a little bit more and give people a different way to go. And the exact same thing on the other side, kind of mirrored. The path will go this way, go up here, this will be a habitat area as well. And the actual sky ride will have kind of an entrance here, go somehow through this area and have an entrance exit here, come back through here, which will also all be habitat here as well at some point, but come all the way back here. I'm thinking maybe having a stop here to maybe encourage people to walk along here a little bit more, and then back to the stop here. So, and across, I think just straight across over top of the flamingo habitat makes the most sense. But it's going to take a little bit of finagling, I think, to make sure that we have the correct heights and are able to kind of go over stuff and have some supports that look like they make sense but don't interfere too much with the look and what we've already got. The point isn't really to be able to view into our habitats from the sky ride. It's mostly just to be able to get around the zoo a little bit better, so I'm not too concerned about having it go straight through a lot of habitats. But if I can go over top of a few of them, I think that will just look kind of cool. So yeah, I think that's generally what we're looking at. I think mainly what I want is, especially with the option of like right off the entrance going either to the left or to the right here, this area is way overcrowded. And I mean, obviously it's way overcrowded because it's the only place for people to come in before they head off in the other directions. So mostly I'm just hoping, the people who want to skip this area can, if we have kind of a path going this way, and maybe we'll even, once we have a habitat over here and the sky ride here, we might even have the option to like go straight from here and go along this way to exit, or go along this way to enter rather than having to go through the center here. But we'll see what that looks like when we get there. In the meantime, let's just hop right on into building this ride. All right, and here we go with our gondola ride. So overall, I don't know, I'm really excited about this one. I feel like this build has kind of been the first time that I'm seeing, or I can picture where this zoo is going to end up. So it's kind of cool because it is built totally like all the way around the outside, and I don't know, I have such a, I don't know everything that's going to go into it yet, but I have a very clear vision now of kind of what this zoo looks like when it is complete. The zoo was never meant to be too huge. I wanted it to remain accessible for, both for my computer to be able to run and also to be able to not worry about guest caps and actually have the whole thing be filled up with people and with animals. And, the zoo wasn't meant to have a bunch of bare space and all that kind of thing. So I think having this ride around the outside really, it just kind of helps me at least see what the end zoo is going to look like. And we definitely have quite a few more habitats and areas that we need to build up to, fill in where this new ride ended up being. But I'm really excited to move forward with that. And I think this is going to be such a nice addition for our guests. It's, in the end, it definitely is improving a lot of things about the quality of life for our guests. So I'm really happy with how that turned out. But yeah, I think I kind of explained it in the beginning part of this video, but essentially this is what I'm kind of considering the first station, and this is the only station that we build up on camera. But from the entrance there, guests are now going to have the opportunity to go to the right or to the left and enter on one of these rides. And it's also going to give them the option to not have to walk back to the entrance from back here, for example. this is ends up being a fairly popular station in the end, and it just basically means the guests can gondola back rather than having to walk all the way back to the entrance when they're ready to leave. So, I mean, practically speaking, I think this makes a lot of sense. The zoo is built in a, like, circular, I suppose. Like, it is kind of built in order for people to be able to do the whole thing in a circular motion and end up back at the start. But I know the guests don't really, I don't know, in this game, the guests don't really operate like that. Like, I don't really know how they manage their paths and that kind of thing, but I don't know. It seems like they certainly don't nicely walk in a circle, not when they have other options and get hungry and need to use the bathroom and need to wander off to do those things. So yeah, I think, I don't know, ultimately that this is kind of, I think this is a good different way to do it rather than, forcing the guests to go certain directions. They have now more options. They can kind of go wherever they please at the time, and it ends up working out quite well. Our guest happiness goes up a lot with this ride added in, and that quest to get to 5 stars, we are getting closer and closer every time. So here, so you can kind of see where I built the track around. I ended up getting rid of the supports, and here I am going to be building custom supports because I think obviously I still want this to look like it's kind of supported. I don't want it to just be floating in midair, but turning on the supports turns on way too many. I think this is excessive. It's ugly. I could have made them black, but even then, I think there's way too many of them. I'm sure from like a practicality standpoint, it maybe makes sense to have that many supports, but we're not going for 100% realism here. We are going for something that looks good and is realistic enough that you could believe that it is a track ride. So I just built these very simple metal supports. I used the ones that were there to just kind of mimic what they looked like, with these thinner beams. Take up a little bit less visual space. They're black. They blend in a little bit better. These are just the New World beam pieces. I can't remember what they're called exactly, but we've used them a bunch. I've used them a bunch throughout the zoo for like decoration and stuff anyways, so ultimately it I don't know, I think it fits in really well, and I like how the supports ended up turning out here. But of course, you can let me know what you think of it, and if you feel like it is totally, looks totally ridiculous, let me know. Of course, I do want it to look good. I just didn't want to go over the top with these, and they actually don't really have any really large metal pieces. I would have probably used something a bit more similar to the size of the current supports, but I couldn't really find any pieces that were like that. Maybe the just shape pieces would have worked rather than the metal pieces, but I don't know. I think this turned out fairly well, and you can just see we're just making it perfect here because this one is going to be duplicated all over the place. Very spread out, just kind of, I don't know. I tried to focus on it's going to be on the corners, and there should be one every so often as well, but definitely a lot more spaced out than the original supports were. But yeah, I think once these supports are all in, we are going to be building that first station on the right-hand side of the entrance there. And something that next episode, we're going to be putting in some a habitat over in this area here as well. So I need to kind of take a look maybe and see if we want to connect the pathway as well, so that you can essentially completely skip the Flamingo Falls area. I think most of our problems are coming from that area. I actually did find some issues with the pathway in the aquatic habitats, where a handful of guests got stuck somewhere, and they obviously got very upset and tired because they couldn't move. They just kept on walking around in a circle endlessly, and they couldn't get any of their needs met or anything. So I kind of moved what was in their way. It was I just kind of moved the donation bin over a little bit and made sure that the benches that were around them were actually attached to the edge, because I think some of them were kind of floating in the middle of the path a little bit, maybe blocking them. But as soon as I kind of moved a couple things around, they got free and they left, and our overall guest happiness actually went up significantly when they got out of the zoo. So if you are having some issues with guest happiness, take a look around. There is a heat map that shows guest happiness. And if you notice like a clump of people who are very unhappy, and like just check it out. Like check out where you have clumps of people who are like in the red zone unhappy, because there has to be a reason for it. Like unless they're tired and just like leaving for the day, the guests should not be like that unhappy. If you know what I mean. Like I don't know, it was an interesting bug that I never would have thought to find it, or I don't think I ever would have noticed it. So I'm glad that I found that, and hopefully from now on we can keep an eye on that and it doesn't happen anymore. But the point of the story was that I want to be able to divert some traffic away from Flamingo Falls, because everybody is going through there, and I think the stores, like all of the food and drink places, are getting way overcrowded. So everybody in that area is hungry and they are thirsty and they are tired because they just cannot get the food and drink that they want. So in this station, I do add a small food court area, just one food shop, one drink shop, one souvenir shop. But I think once the other animals are in here, we're going to put some very high ticket animals in on this side, or very high appeal animals. So I think that's going to help divert the traffic a bit over this way. And we might even expand that path out so that it connects straight to the aquatic area, perhaps. I need to maybe map out a little bit and see how to do that without it looking too ridiculous. But yeah, I think the end goal is going to be to get some people away from Flamingo Falls, because it's just the fact right now that everybody has to go through there to get anywhere else in the zoo is a problem. Everybody is very unhappy and tired all of the time, and it is just, it's bringing down our guest needs, and we are trying to get to 5 even stars. And like education is its own problem, but I think guest needs are one that we should be able to solve with a little bit of finishing touches on the zoo here. So hopefully that all works out. But yeah, this building here, pretty standard station, obviously giving it that very modern look, bringing in some of the lighter colored wood, because I think that's going to be a theme in this area. This is the only station that I built on camera, because 2 of the other stations are going to be not built until I actually build up the habitats in that area, because I want them to match. I know the whole zoo kind of has some very cohesive themes, but I also have sort of area-specific themes. Maybe they're not that noticeable, but to me anyway, like exactly which pieces I use in different areas, I try to keep a little bit consistent. So this area is going to be more of that light-colored wood, which is why that is featured on this building. But the actual like layout of the building, I mean, it's a little bit unique compared to the other buildings that we've done so far. It's very square. I thought, you know what, this is a train station. It doesn't need to be a circle. It doesn't need to be like anything crazy. It just needs to be like a box for the gondolas to come in and for the gondolas to exit. So that's all that this is. There's a good I like the little overhang here to kind of shelter the guests for sitting around and eating, and for these shops while they're standing in line in case it is raining, since, you know, it does rain. It rains and it snows here, so I always kind of try to consider that a little bit when I'm building things. Although it doesn't happen very often, it's good to have some places under shelter for when it does rain and snow. It keeps our guests a little bit happier, even though they will always complain when it rains and when it snows, because I forgot to bring an umbrella, and for some reason everybody wears t-shirts and shorts. I don't know if they're actually wearing shorts, but like everybody wears t-shirts when they go to the zoo, even when it's the middle of winter in temperate Europe. Doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? But I think having these little sheltered areas are a good little tip to help, I don't know, the guests just feel a little bit better. But yeah, I think just as we are adding the finishing touches onto this building, I also added in some staff buildings at the back of this one. I might have to make some adjustments to this building when we make the kind of habitat that ends up going back in this area. I'll have to wait and see how it like blends in, because it would be kind of nice if the staff area at the back could also include the habitat buildings, and like the habitat could connect right to this building, or at least like right by it, so that the staff only have like one area to go to, and like the vendors and the keepers are all kind of, this is just the staff area. But I'm not totally sure how that's going to work out yet, so we will have to wait and see how that goes. But that pretty much concludes what we did for the time-lapse. I added in a bunch of little details and some decorating and just making this area look a little bit nicer off camera. So why don't we just jump right on into the real-time part here, and I will show you what it looks like now. And here is our finished product. So added a few more details over here off camera, just kind of made this whole area look a little bit nicer. And I actually kind of like how it's looking. Obviously, I don't know, it's kind of plain through here, but it is also another viewing area to see the to see the peafowl over here. So I don't know, I think that's okay. But yeah, so we have our station exit here. It looks like we've got lots of people going on. These food stalls are not so busy yet, but that's okay. We actually, after we built this area, got up... Oh god, somebody's escaped. Every time. Oh, okay, that's just that bug. He'll go back into his habitat soon. But yeah, after running the this ride for just a little while, our guest needs and happiness went up really quite a lot. So, for some reason the bathroom one went up a bunch, happiness went up a bunch. I think the other three are about the same. They were always in the orange. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good sign. Obviously not super crowded, but I don't know if we really want it super crowded over here anyway. This is kind of what it looks like from inside here. I put these settings on essentially so that this does not block the station, so it keeps on going. We'll never have anything blocking. Let me just show the exact settings we have here. Min rider load, half load, but we're not blocking the station. So essentially what it'll do is it'll wait until there's either a half load or until another cart comes up behind it, and then it will leave. I think that just kind of lets the whole loop go around a little bit better. Hopefully we don't have too many issues with that. We do have a lot running that don't have anybody in them, but I'm not really sure. I don't know. Let me know if you can think about any better settings that we could put in here, but I think that's going to be our best bet. That's kind of what it looks like, though. It's really cool. We have all of our carts pretty evenly spaced out. Actually, you know what would help that is having, I think, less transport carts, if we don't need so many because nobody's riding them. That is also an option, but we'll look into it later. Oh my goodness, what is happening? Okay, we're having some issues here. Let's just pause it while we finish the little tour here. But yeah, these are those supports that I had made, custom supports, just so that they weren't so bulky and all over the place. Maybe a little bit less realistic. This might not be quite enough support to hold up something like this in real life, but this isn't real life. This is a video game, so I'm not too concerned. This one over here, obviously I did not decorate. I'm gonna wait until I do this area, and we'll decorate it with the area. This one I just wanted to do because it was our very first one. And I don't know why I think about that one being the main one. They very well could go here, but this is what I kind of picture as like the ideal starting point. But I also did build a building around this one that kind of fits in with the theme over here. Pretty straightforward, very modern looking, kind of matches everything else, but yeah, I thought that worked out fairly well. It actually looks like this is one of our busiest areas, which is interesting because nobody used to come up here. But I guess because there's nowhere else to get on the ride once you're over here, right? Like this one's pretty far away. Yeah, I guess maybe it's just the lack of stations, whereas this one here is less busy. Same with this one because everybody wants to go into the center. I don't know. I was hoping more of our traffic would funnel this way rather than going into the middle, but maybe we'll just have to see how that goes over time. Yeah, I'm not sure. We'll see how that works out over time, but it looks like we're getting a lot more people up here, which is cool. Might even... did I not put the same settings on this one? I thought I put the same settings on all of them. Yeah, don't block station, half load, but it looks like it's definitely blocking the station. There's 3 of them in here. Okay, well, I don't know how these work. That's a little bit annoying, but whatever. We'll just let it do its thing. It looks like people are enjoying it, and I think it will look really cool, obviously, once we have some more habitats and stuff back here, too. This one I also did not decorate. Same thing. I'm going to decorate this one, build a building around it, and fix the paths and stuff once we actually have a theme for back here, and maybe a habitat or whatever we're putting back here. This one also looks very busy, I guess, back at the zoo. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much it for today. This is now what our zoo looks like. I actually really like this. I like the idea of using transport rides, but I really like the idea of building a zoo with the transport rides in mind. This one was not built with any transport rides in mind, just because I hadn't really played with them much before. But I think it works out really well. It kind of like adds this extra element, and I think with a modern zoo it also fits in quite well. It just looks a little bit more, I don't know, I guess a little bit more like theme parky. Like it's very modern, obviously, to have like this huge track ride all the way around it. And I think it looks really cool in the background. I think it's gonna look awesome once we get some more of the stuff built in around it as well. And that is all that we have for today's episode. So as always, let me know in the comment section below any feedback that you have for these videos, anything that you would like to see in the zoo, all of that kind of fun stuff. I love reading your comments and I love getting your suggestions. Next episode, we are going to be tackling the right-hand side of the entrance there. So I already have an idea of what we're going to do there. And at the back of the zoo here, I also have a bunch of really good ideas based on all of your suggestions so far. So what I would love to know is this big section right over here on to the left of our entrance if you're walking into the zoo. What do you think would be a good idea to put there? I'm thinking maybe a cold biome kind of area, maybe a big indoor habitat thing. I had a couple suggestions for indoor habitats as well, and I think that could be super fun. So I don't really have any plans. Let me know what you would like to see in that area. You can kind of get the general idea of the size here. It is pretty big, so we have lots of room to play with. But yeah, I hope you all have a great week, and I will talk to you in the next episode.